We want tutors and volunteers who have the academic ability to tutor effectively, but also the communication and motivation that sits right with our mission. So we don't want to be a burden to schools. It's not extra admin. The idea is that we are going to facilitate it to make it as smooth as possible. And I think for impact, yes, grades are the ultimate measure of that, but confidence is so important, because that sense of confidence that pupil has when they go into that exam and they're looking at the page and they think, I'm not sure I can do this. It's the little bird, the little voice in their head from their tutor, their teacher, their parent, their inspiration that says, no, you got this.
Welcome to the Qualified Tutor podcast. I'm your host, Ludo Miller, and I'll be interviewing tutors and thought leaders from across the tutoring landscape to inspire, inform, and motivate you to become the best tutor you can be. The Qualified Tutor community is a safe and supportive space for tutors who love to learn and grow. We offer training, resources, ideas, and a chance to connect with like-minded tutors. If you'd like to continue the conversation, join our Qualified Tutor community at www.qualifiedtutorcommunity.org or find it in the show notes.
We are so lucky to have Jen Fox on the podcast today. Jen Fox is the interim CEO of Action Tutoring. Susanna Hardiman, the founder of Action Tutoring, is off on maternity leave at the moment, which coincides beautifully with the NTP, which I can't wait to hear more about from you. But Susanna was actually on our podcast right in the early days of Qualified Tutor, at the beginning of May. And at that time, she was describing to us why she was galvanizing an army of tutors, volunteer tutors, who were very much enjoying giving to their communities. And her background, I understand, is in not-for-profits and bringing meaning and bringing change and improvements where they're most needed. So that's what I understand is the legacy of Action Tutoring. And we really find it very important that you were doing it way before the NTP was launched and government funding appeared behind it. You were doing it because it was a need that needed to be addressed. In the same way that Qualified Tutor has been working to raise standards in tutoring, you have been working to bring tutoring to the less advantaged children in the UK. And that's really something that we believe in and we commend and we're aligned with. So we very much welcome you, Jen. I do want to hear about your personal background, and I also want to hear about how the NTP is going. But I have to start off with this warm-up question, and that is, what were you like as a learner, Jen?
Oh, good morning. That's a fantastic question to get started. Well, I did eventually go on to be a teacher, so it probably is unsurprising that as a learner I was quite happy to be in the classroom, and I definitely was one of those peoples who is keen to get stuck into most things in the classroom. So in a sense, the love of education and learning that I experienced, it was a bit of a shock when I grew and understood that that's actually not a common feeling. I was surrounded by similar people growing up, and as I experienced new groups and learned a bit more about the diversity of experience people have, actually I have grown to cherish that very innocent and lovely feeling I had when I was certainly in primary school, at least.
I love that word, cherish, because that's something that's worth passing on to other people, isn't it?
Oh, it's really powerful, yeah.
And I think that we know as tutors that you only have to show a student or give the student a feel for that to make a lasting difference. It doesn't have to be that every learning moment that they have is like that, but they'll remember them. Mm-hmm. And they'll go back and seek them out, won't they? Mm. If you give a student that space to feel the learning that is powerful, and positive, and curiosity stimulating, then you've got a student for life, haven't you?
I completely agree. The term efficacy is something that I think surrounds all of that, giving someone the feeling that actually have the power to affect their own journey. I think that's addictive, and if you give those little snippets along the way, I think it really sets them up nicely for more schooling or what stands in the future for them.
Yeah, we certainly agree with that. We talk about self-efficacy a lot. Last night we were doing a workshop 4, which is barriers for learning, special educational needs and mental health. We were talking about coronavirus and how I was actually ill a few months ago, and I was home for 2 weeks. And by the end of the 2 weeks, I feel like I'd forgotten my name. I forgot that I'm a capable, busy, active person. I lost my sense of self-efficacy. So we were saying that during coronavirus and lockdown, one of the things that a tutor can do to make a real difference to a student is actually help them have those learning gains that makes them feel like a person, lets them feel their own self-efficacy. And like you're saying, it's addictive. So we love those virtuous cycles where people raise their own tide. So we're bubbling with enthusiasm over here, and we want to hear about, firstly, about your own personal journey. How did you find yourself working with Action Tutoring? And then we'll drill down into the NTP.
Sure. You may have guessed from the accent, I grew up in the Republic of Ireland in a place called Bray, kind of on the outskirts of the capital. And I didn't ever plan to relocate to the UK. I had graduated with a degree in genetics, thought that the scientific route was for me, then spent a significant time in the lab and went, I think I like people a bit much to be stuck in the lab all the time. And was fortunate enough to work in a couple of roles in the charity sector in Ireland, particularly in education. And education is something that was always a passion of mine. I didn't particularly want or aspire to be a teacher because my mum was one. And of course, you don't want to just copy what your parents do. But while I was in Ireland, I was approached by the recruiters for Teach First here in the UK, and it was the first year they were looking to Ireland to expand where they get their graduates applying for the leadership programme. And I kind of just fell in love with the concept. It was the challenge, it was the excitement. And I eventually moved to London back in 2012. And I taught for 3 years in a secondary school in Croydon, science mostly, but a bit of maths in there when needed. And it was completely transformative. I don't think I ever, at any point, felt like I was going to stay in teaching. For me, it was always a route into a role in education charity sector. I really wanted to figure out and get a feel for what it was like on the ground before I was trying to work in the system. And from there, joined Action Tutoring in 2015. Initially as head of London and curriculum, but we were a much smaller organisation then. And have since had various roles within the charity, covered Susanna's first maternity back in 2018, and here I am again for her baby number 2, and she's trusting me again. So that's my kind of quick route to where I am now, teaching background, but kind of also coming from a different educational culture in Ireland as well.
Oh, tell us more about that.
Yeah, it's one I find quite interesting because there's definitely a culture of respect for education that is very, very strong in Ireland. That's not to say it doesn't exist here in the UK, but education is definitely in the top couple of priorities for the average person in Ireland. Perhaps it's growing up during the Celtic Tiger and seeing that those who were educated were able to make significant gains. Maybe that influences my generation. But the emphasis and the importance of education above everything else is very clear. Teachers have a status in Ireland that I would have only dreamed to have experienced here in the UK.
Yeah.
So they're the kind of main differences, I would say.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. You know, there's so much of what you're saying here that parallels my own journey. I was never going to be a teacher, but when I did my PGCE, I did a fast track course for school leadership, because although I love the classroom and I do come alive in the classroom, there's something lovely about the scope of school leadership or running an educational charity, because you can help lots of people to help lots and lots of people.
Exactly.
And that reach is really an exciting place to be. And then when you talk about status, so, you know, qualified tutor exists to raise the status of tutors as professionals. And when Sutton Trust described tutors as shadow schooling, you think, well, no educator should exist in the shadows. That's not safe, it's not supported, it's not encouraging, and it doesn't get the most out of us. So that professional development community and the dialogue around that, and the status, the parent-facing status, the school-facing status, it's really crucial to be able to raise this tide. So talk to us about how Action Tutoring works, who your volunteers are, how you work with them, and what's the scope of what you're doing now?
Definitely. So Action Tutoring uses volunteers from a really large range of backgrounds. We have criteria, as I'm sure any a high profile and high quality organisation does. So we want tutors and volunteers who have the academic ability to tutor effectively, but also the communication and motivation that sits right with our mission. So that means that the range of tutors we have, we say 18 to 82, I think is the spread. Yeah, really, really big. And it's incredible to see how different ages, backgrounds of tutors resonate with different pupils. There's no magic pairing that we can predict. Sometimes it just clicks. And our volunteers, several of them, you know, at least 10% are qualified teachers themselves, not in the classroom anymore. They might be retired. So they do come with significant experience in the kind of mainstream education space. But a lot of our tutors are simply incredibly passionate about either English or maths and want to convey that love and energy to a young person who doesn't maybe have that same level of enthusiasm. So our target population, as we call them, of our pupils are disadvantaged pupils in receipt of free school meals in the recent years, but also those who are underachieving, so at risk of not getting those just essential grades, those passing grades. So we're not working with those who have quite specialist needs, nor are we working with those who are, you know, the high achievers aiming for university. There's another amazing organisation, the Access Project, out there working with that group. We're working with kind of everybody else in the middle, those who it could really make a difference to get over the line. We've been around now 9 years, growing in scale each year. Started off with a couple of schools in Peckham and London with Susanna, and this year we're expecting to be in over 200, supporting over 5,000 pupils, and with thanks definitely from the opportunity afforded to us by the National Tutoring Programme.
Right, okay, so let's talk about the National Tutoring Programme. We are how many weeks in now?
So we kicked off, as we always do, in October, but the NTP launched officially at the beginning of November, so kind of week 6 now.
Excellent. Okay, so what do you see? How does it work? What's working? What are the challenges? Yeah, explain it to us.
Yeah, well, we've essentially applied to be a tuition provider with the NTP based on our model. So we've presented and said, this is what we do. And they said they agree and would like to support that. So it is in many ways operations as normal for us, just at a larger scale. The big change, I suppose, that's come as a result of the NTP and COVID is our launch of online programs. So historically, in fact, up until last June, we only ever delivered tutoring face to face, and that tutoring has always taken place in a school because we partner with schools rather than with parents. And the NTP really has accelerated our growth of online tutoring. It means that we can now open out volunteering opportunities to a wider range of locations and also work with some schools that we maybe were a little nervous to get the full cohort of tutors we needed and wanted there. So it has expanded horizons in many ways, and overall our ambition this year is to double in size. And we're obviously not doing that alone. The NTP has 33 providers all across England who are working hard to support disadvantaged pupils and kind of narrow the gap that has been further widened as a result of the pandemic and school closures.
And now, a brief word from our founder, Julia Silver.
If you'd like to hear more about the ideas we touch on here, or gain the tools to take your own tutoring to the next level, the Qualification for Tutors could be for you. This live online seminar is facilitated by industry experts who, over 4 Zoom workshops, will cover the foundations of teaching and learning and how it relates to you as a tutor. The workshops are full of rich discussions where you'll learn alongside other tutors and connect on a professional level. We will teach you how to be the kind of tutor every child remembers. Visit our community space at qualifiedtutorcommunity.org and sign up now for our transformative course. We'll see you there.
I'd love to hear, so you're talking about extending the reach, and you're talking about being able to reach more pupils in more schools, but also more tutors. Tutors who are housebound, tutors who are in remote places, all of a sudden have the opportunity to tutor and tutor more hours than before. So it's really opened that opportunity, hasn't it? Where are those new tutors coming from? Do they tend to be undergrads and graduates? Do they tend to be retirees, return to workers? What are the patterns?
Yeah, well, certainly some of the trends we've seen is a large number of retired individuals who are looking for something to add to their week. Online provides kind of a easy, accessible way to deliver an hour or two of tutoring once a week. And they can do it from the comfort of their own home. So certainly seeing a number of those come through. The other group that we've seen is university students who are unfortunately not having the greatest experience, I think, as their first term this year. You know, in someone said on another podcast the other day, my daughter's stuck in a box for 22 hours a day, you know, and in some ways I think they've maybe had it the hardest through this. So it's tutoring is kind of a way out of that small box that they're living in.
Takes us back to self-efficacy.
Absolutely. Yeah. But, you know, we're humans. We like to feel like we're doing something good. Our tutors are certainly motivated for helping the pupils, but it also feels great. When you know you've been able to support someone to really get it, that's such an addictive feeling.
You know, there's not many jobs that are as satisfying when you get them right. We have one of our free workshops is called How to Smash Every First Session. And it does feel like smashing it when you get it right.
Oh, really? Absolutely. It's fireworks.
It really is. Because you knew exactly what you were trying to achieve. You took the student there, you made a difference. And that feeling is addictive. And what a lovely thing to be addicted to. Talk to us about online and and practically how people are making it work, what platforms they're using, what resources, which combinations, what works better for different subjects, the real nitty-gritty.
Yeah, so we as an organisation did a good bit of due diligence to find out what would be the best platform for our volunteers. We landed on an organisation, a piece of software called Vedimo, which is a virtual classroom, has an interactive whiteboard and a series of functions. It's designed for education, so it really was fitting the bill in both kind of the practical application, but also on the safeguarding side, recordings, being able to track users, all of the things we know are super important to make this work in a safe and effective manner. And then practically, we are able to set our pupils and tutors up using unique URLs. So they type those in to the computer when their session is due to start, and that'll bring them to the destination where their tutor is. And it's really lovely to see that first couple of sessions when they log in. It's an initial like, oh gosh, I can see another human. But the word immersive has certainly been thrown around by some of our pupils. You know, it's something about having the headset on, this video that's just for you, and the power of that, you know, an adult giving you that hour of their day just to support you, and really working as, you know, engaging in a way that I never would have predicted.
Super. Let's keep going with that then. In the school, they're sitting in one room in an ICT suite, everybody with their headphones on, and 20 tutoring sessions going concurrently?
Absolutely, yes. We work as the cohort group, so typically 18 to 20 pupils, spread maybe over a couple of rooms if we can for social distancing, but then also just for the sound quality.
And then how many of those, so the school will have to make all that space and tech available. And are you finding that being able to do that is a barrier in some schools?
I think going into this, we knew technology and the IT infrastructure in schools was variable, to say the least. Some things have helped. So we're providing all the headphones. We've had generous support to be able to do that. And what we like to say is then if they have an internet connection and a working laptop, we can make it work. I think the challenges faced by some schools are, you know, they've given out all their laptops to the pupils over the summer who had no access to tech at home. So there's fewer around than there used to be.
Right.
And then simply just the age of some systems means maybe the sound quality isn't as good. The broadband bandwidth can be a struggle, but you know, it's kind of an evolving picture. It's something we found schools really willing to try and improve, even if it's not there at the first session. They've been getting, you know, connecting us with their IT teams and making it as good an experience as possible.
So there'll be somebody facilitating the students with tech on that side?
Yeah, so as part of the Action Tutoring model, we have paid members of staff called programme coordinators. They go to the schools. They're the magicians that make it all work. They really are incredible, our PCs. They are sorting out all the pupils, supporting with any tech troubleshooting, and being the main connection between the tutor, the pupil, and their teachers.
Fantastic. So on an average day, and for the NTP, your program coordinator will be in a school for what, 2-3 hours and run 2-3 cohorts?
So it depends on the school. We've definitely seen more schools want more than one cohort involved with us this term. So it might be that program coordinator is just there for the hour, an hour and a half of the session, and then they're home again, or they're moving to another school. Over the course of the week, which might be a better picture, they're typically in 6 or 7 schools, depending on their location. So they're getting to know quite a range of young people, schools, both primaries and secondaries. And it might be that every single one of those pupils has a different tutor, or it might be some of our incredible volunteers who are doing almost as many tutoring sessions in a week as our paid members of staff coordinating.
Isn't that amazing? And then the program coordinator will be the same one going to each school each week, so they'll get to know the place?
Definitely. Really important for us because they're building a relationship with the pupils alongside the tutors. So it's another kind of adult investing in these young people.
Oh, that's lovely. Also, in terms of communicating, the line of communication between the NTP partner and the school is a crucial point, isn't it?
Make or break, definitely.
Make or break, right. So how does that work? How do you make it comfortable for schools?
Well, the way we like to work is that, we want to be something that is as supportive and helpful to the school. Ultimately, we care about these pupils and their improving life chances. So we don't want to be a burden to schools. It's not extra admin. The idea is that we are going to facilitate it to make it as smooth as possible. But what we do know works really well is having a named link teacher, that main contact, who's that mixture of a doer, so can get things done, but also a decision maker, so has the authority to make decisions based on, room changes or strategic groups they want to work with. So in every school, that might be a different person. Sometimes it's the head teacher, sometimes it's the head of the classroom. It sometimes could even be a teaching assistant who knows those young people really well. So we personalize that main contact depending on the school and their context. And that's really how it can happen smoothly, because they're in the school, they know the systems, and then our coordinators can work with them to make everything on our side fit in neatly. So it's mirroring what's going on in the school rather than being an add-on that doesn't integrate into what they do.
Isn't that fantastic? I love that it could be the head teacher and it could be a teaching assistant, and it's just somebody who understands enough about the way things are working to enable the program. I think that's super. So let's go back to the online experience. And you mentioned Vedimo, which I haven't yet explored, but you can be sure I will do. And what our tutors sort of tend to use is a combination of Bramble or Zoom or BitPaper, and then pull up PDFs and have them on the screen. And each platform will give you a different combination of being able to have the camera up at the same time as the document, or only one or the other, those kinds of things. So how do your tutors tend to prefer to work? What works for them?
Yeah, one of the things that we do in Action Tutoring is provide template resources for our tutors. So we want to make sure that they're targeting sessions on the right topics at the right level that they're pitched, and that are exam specific. So we have some curriculum specialists who have worked really hard to generate those for us. But when it comes to actually delivering that content online, some of the things we've asked our tutors to do that I know are working well is having the video stream on. And the reason we ask for that is because when you are virtual, the non-verbals don't translate as easily. So the visual is something that really does help you gauge a sense of when that pupil is, brows kind of furrowed, really thinking hard to try and work something out, or if they've decided to kind of wander their eyes around and look at what might be going on in other areas of the classroom. So those visuals are really important. And we obviously don't want that to take up a large amount of their screen for practical reasons. So just like minimizing it to as small as possible, putting it to the side, so the majority of their screen is the shared whiteboard.
Fantastic. That's really, really clear to me. Thank you so much. I think also the other side of reading each other's visual cues is being able to give the student a thumbs up, letting them be able to see when you're pleased with them. So is there any group work happening, or is it all one-to-ones?
Actually, the majority is 1 to 2. So one tutor with 2 pupils, hopefully matched a similar ability and gaps in knowledge. And that tends to work well for a couple of reasons. We know impact-wise, there isn't a massive difference in the impact you can have in a small group compared to the one-on-one. So we're comfortable that we're still supporting them to make good progress. But the other side of it is that some pupils feel more comfortable when they've simply got another young person in the group with them. I think we forget as adults how intimidating it can be to find a new person and to almost introduce yourself when you're a lot younger. So having a friend from their year group alongside them really does help with that kind of easing into the sessions.
It's really insightful. One of our earliest podcasts, we were talking about how when you're working one-to-one, face-to-face, you'll sit on a corner, won't you? You'll sit at a corner with a student sort of to the side of you, not directly in front of you. There's actually something quite intense about this webcam thing, because there's nowhere else to look. And so finding a way to sort of mitigate for that, and also create that peer support. A group has a whole new dynamic that can be really fun. So that's lovely. Also, a bit of collaboration and even competition, just to get the energy up, is always a good idea. Let's talk, and then we're going to wrap up, about impact. What do you see as happening so far?
Well, I think the early signs for us, and I do say early signs, we piloted online tutoring in 6 schools in June, July. We're now in over 70 schools delivering that. So we're working at a scale that we can pick up trends, but, we still would like to see the year out and look at those exam grades before we're confident that we can state the exact impact we're having. But from pupil voice, which I think is really important. Again, I mentioned that word immersive, engaging. Those are the sort of things our pupils are saying. Our tutors, once they've got to grips with their technology, are definitely feeling like it's a different impact they're having, insofar as they are seeing progress, but finding it that they can be more adaptable in this space. So, for example, some tutor told me, I prepared a lesson on X topic, and then when I went in, they said, I've got an exam tomorrow on Y topic, and I didn't have the resources with me. The beauty of us online is you can just add in a new PDF, pull something else in, play that other video. So you can actually adapt in a manner that is targeting the needs and wants of the pupils. And I think for impact, yes, grades are the ultimate measure of that, but confidence is so important, because that sense of confidence that pupil has when they go into that exam and they're looking at the page and they think, I'm not sure I can do this. It's the little bird, the little voice in their head from their tutor, their teacher, their parent, their inspiration that says, no, you got this. You can do this, keep going, keep trying. And that's the bit that I think is still happening. And I'm pleased to say the impact of online is still fostering.
Yeah, that's right. And that's sort of the widest reach, isn't it? That we find that students who gain confidence with their tutor apply themselves longer and harder to all subjects, not just the one that was tutored. So helping a student to find their own learning power is what a tutor's really doing. On that note, I'm going to thank you and wrap up, simply because I want to invite you back again at Easter time to hear how it's gone and what's changed. Would that be all right, Jen?
Oh, with pleasure, yes.
Thank you. It's been really, really lovely to have you here. And we wish you all the best with the NTP and making the difference to the young people and also to the tutors, because we really enjoy our jobs, and the people who give us the opportunity to tutor are people to whom we should be grateful, because we're expanding our reach, and that's really, really exciting. So thank you so much, and we wish you all the best and a very restful Christmas.
And
cheers,
to you all. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Qualified Tutor podcast, where tutors share their expertise to support the tutoring community. If you'd like to continue the conversation, join our Qualified Tutor community at www.qualifiedtutorcommunity.org or find it in the show notes below. We exist to connect, share, and learn with you, because tutoring is a small job that makes a big difference.